Who do you go to when you want tough, critical feedback? If you've read John Maxwell's book, 21 Laws of Leadership, in there's a chapter on Claude. Who's Claude? If you read it, you know. If you haven't read it, Claude is your influencer on your team, leaders. So in the book, John Maxwell talks about when he first took over as a church as a senior pastor. Whenever he brought up a new idea or something he wanted to get done in the church, the executive council would look over at this guy named Claude, a local farmer who was on the board. They would look to him, and if Claude liked the idea, he'd nod and they'd all approve. If Claude didn't like the idea, he'd question it, and then they wouldn't approve, right? And so Claude was the influencer. John Maxwell figured this out, went to visit Claude on his farm, started running all the ideas that he wanted to do through the church, got Claude's input and feedback on that, got him on board or adjusted his plans as they made sense, that Claude would like that idea. And then when they'd go to executive council meeting, John Maxwell would bring up an idea. Everybody would look to Claude. Claude would nod and say, I think that's a great idea. Let's do that. And everybody would support it. So we use that term a lot at Service Express. We have, over the years, I'm always talking to leaders about when you're going to announce something new to your team. Who's your Claude? Who's your influencer? It may be the top performer on their team. It may not be. It's whoever influences that team. It's whoever they look to see if they're in agreement or not. And I always say, run it past your Claude first, get them on board. Maybe make adjustments based on feedback if it's appropriate, but then that will make everything else go easier. So we do that a lot here. But recently, and this just happened very recently, I started thinking about, as I was doing some projects, who is the critical person on your team? Now, I don't have a name for that. I can think of a bunch, sometimes in the heat of the moment, but who is the person on your team that as you're thinking through something is going to be very critical? It's going to give you that critical feedback. Not everybody does it, right? There are people on my team that sometimes if I run out of communication, I'll get, yeah, it looks good. They're really not, that's not their thing. Or it's, for some people, communication is their thing. They'll give me really critical feedback. Sometimes on comp plans. Some people are kind of like, whatever you think is best. Some people are very critical in all the detail around comp plans. It happens for everything. For me, I'm very critical on communication. If people run something by me, how we're going to communicate, what we're going to communicate, I'm going to be very critical on that. Communication is in my top 5. So, I will pick out a word that doesn't resonate. I'll be like, that's not the right word. That's not a good word. It sends the wrong message, the wrong tone. I am sort of a nitpicker when it comes to communication. So my team, if you're going to roll out communication, like I'm a pain, but if you roll it through me, I'm going to give you that feedback and I think make it better. So I look for that when I'm doing that, right? Different people have sort of different skills or different things resonate with them. I don't even know if it's skills. I think it's more kind of what resonates with you. But I go and find who's going to give me critical feedback on something, and I'm going to run it through them. Now, it's not always the most fun conversation, right? It's healthy, it's valuable, it's needed, but we don't all love to get critical feedback. But that's what I think you have to do. Go to the person who's going to give you that critical feedback, wrestle with it, get through that, make the adjustments, then go to your Claude, right? The influencer as you're going to roll, and then roll it out. And these steps, people say, well, I don't have time. We're moving too fast. Listen, this is what I'll tell you. Anytime we skip these steps, and it happened to us recently here at Service Express, when we skip these steps of communication, we end up messing it up, right? And then we spend a whole bunch of time circling back up and trying to correct things and following up on conversations. And I tell you, it takes 2 to 3 times more time than it does if you do these steps right up front. So find your Claude, that's your influencer, and then find your critical voice. I don't have a name for that. We can all make up our own names. Find that critical voice. It's valuable. You need those critical voices on your team. Find them, think about your communication, and then go forward. And I promise you, I guarantee you, it will go better, right? You will get better buy-in and better results going forward. That's been my experience. I hope it's yours too. Let me know. Try this out. And then, as always, I'd love to hear any feedback.